What's going on, guys, and welcome back to part 10 of building Twitter using UIKit and Google's Firebase. So in the last part, we managed to create our first account on Twitter using Firebase. So in this part, let's actually add some way here in the home view controller to sign out from our account. And we're going to continue our working with the onboarding by implementing a way or a method to log in back to the same account. So without further ado, let's dive into it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to change here, I'm going to refactor this method a little bit. So I'm just going to create a new function. So let me just write private func handle authentication. All right, and basically I'm gonna copy this code over here, and I'm gonna call this function here. All right, so right now we need to alter the UI a little bit just to give us an option for us to sign out from the account. So here in the view.load inside the home view controller class, I'm just going to type navigation item dot right bar button item, and basically I'm just going to initialize a new bar button item. I'm going to choose the first one over here, which has the image, style, target, and action. So for the image, I'm just going to use SF symbol over here. And basically, I can use something like this: rectangle, portrait, and arrow right. So basically, that seems like we can sign out using this icon. So over here, let me just type UI image of a system name. Let me paste that over here. I'm just going to choose the style as plain, and setting the target for self. So basically our home view controller is going to be responsible for running this action with the selector did tap sign out. Let me just create this function really quick over here. So Objective-C private func did tap sign out, and here I'm just going to use our Firebase SDK to sign out the user from here. So I'm just going to say auth.sign out, and basically this functions might throw an error. So in order for us to, we're not actually interested in handling this kind of errors, so I'm just going to type a try with a question mark over here. So that saves us the implementation of a do catch block, or basically if you're so sure that this function is going to operate without any error, you can also force unwrap this, but I'm just going to use try with a question mark, so if there's any problem, I don't get an error. And after that, I'm just going to handle the authentication one more time. So basically, after I sign out, I'm just going to check again if the user is nil, and if the user is nil, I'm just going to be presented back with the onboarding view controller. So let's just run this and let me see what we get. And let's see what do we get. Build succeeded. And as you can see here, we have our sign out button, and whenever we tap on this button, we are presented back with our onboarding view controller. All right, so right now we just need to handle one small thing with the register view controller. So let me just head back to the register view controller over here, and let's just scroll down a little bit. And as you can see here, whenever we get a user, we just printed that user out. We kept that simple at the last tutorial. However, in this tutorial, let's just take actions based on the results that we get from here. All right, so we can take actually this user. So we can say something like guard user not equal nil. So basically we are checking or making sure with the guard statement over here that our user is not nil. That means we got a user successfully. And in case if we don't get a user over here, so basically we'll get a nil, we return this function, we don't do anything. All right, so if I got a user successfully over here, I'm just going to use another guard statement. However, with this guardlet statement, I'm just going to initialize the same instance of the onboarding view controller from the navigation controller itself. And that is going to be done by this. So navigation controller, which is the same navigation controller I'm in right now. Basically, it has an array of view controllers, which is basically the navigation controller that we have established here from the home view controller. Let me just show you that really quick. As you can see here, we established a new navigation controller, and the root view controller was the onboarding view controller. So I want to actually reference this exact instance. So what I'm doing here, I'm querying this navigation controller. I'm querying the view controllers of this navigation controller, and I'm going to get the first one, which is the onboarding view controller. I'm just going to cast that down to onboarding view controller. Okay, else return as well, because I don't need anything from this. I just want to have the same instance here so that I can type vc.dismiss, and that is going to be true. So whenever we get a new user, so we are going to be sending the dismissal action within the onboarding view controller from here, which is the register view controller. Okay, and I'm getting here an error because I'm referencing the navigation controller without using the word self, as I'm just doing this from the closure here of sync. Let's just hit build and run, or basically tap on the run on the top corner here. And now we don't have any signed in user, so this is why we are represented by the onboarding view controller. Let's just hit create account, and a new view controller, which is the register view controller, is going to be pushed on the navigation stack. This is why I'm using the first to reference the onboarding view controller over here. So let's just create a new email for now, or basically a new account. So amr@testing.com, and for here I'm just going to write my password 12345678, super safe password. Let me just hit create account, and whenever we are succeeded, as you can see, we are represented back by our home view controller. So right now we just need to make sure that we can log in to the same account as well. So let's just do that. I'm going to sign out from the account one more time over here, and as you can see, I'm presented back by the onboarding view controller. I don't need to create a new account each time I use the app. This is not logical at all. However, I'm gonna make sure that I use this option. Have an account already? Easy, click login. Whenever we click login or tap login, we are not presented by anything right now. This is what we're going to be building right now. Actually, here in the onboarding folder, I'm just going to initialize, or basically create, a new view controller. So attach class, let me just hit that, and here I'm just going to say login view controller. I'm gonna tap next, make sure that I'm selecting the onboarding folder over here, and hit create. Okay, I'm gonna keep it really simple because I don't want to waste your time doing the same thing over and over again. So I'm just going to go here to the register view controller. I'm just going to scroll up a little bit, and I'm just going to copy basically all of this email, password, and we can take the label as well. Okay, and now we can just go to the login view controller. We can just go up in here. Let's paste that over here, change something like login title label, and here I'm just going to say login to your account, and here I'm just going to leave the email text field, the password text field, and here I'm just going to change that to login button, and here I'm just going to change this text as well to login instead of create account. Here I'm just going to make the same dance, adding the views, setting up the constraints, and actually using those constraints so we can just go to register view controller one more time. We can take advantage of this logic over here. So let me just copy all of this. I'm going to go to the login view controller one more time. We change the names. Make sure that you change the names of here as well. So this is going to be a login title label, and this is going to be a login button. The same for the email text field, the password, we haven't changed that. And here I'm just going to configure strings. Okay, and let me just create this function really quick. And we're not going to write that from the beginning, it's already right in here in the register. We can just copy all of this. So I'm just gonna copy this over here, make sure to change the names of the variables as well. So copy that from here, login, paste, boom. And here I'm just going to say login. Okay, here is going to be login as well, change that. And I believe we got one more button to change over here. So register title label, that was actually login. Register button, change that to login, copy that name over here, paste, 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 and we need to make sure that we are referencing the correct method, login title, and here instead of the register button, login button constraints. I believe I'm going to find it. So yeah, it's still not changed. So login, copy that name of the function, paste it over here, and boom. We just need to add one small thing, which is the background of this view, which is going to be a system background color. And here, I'm just going to go to the onboarding view controller, and we are going to add a target for our login button. So here, I'm just going to say login button dot add target self selector did tap login. And here we're just going to say touch up and sign. So that means actually we have tapped a full tab basically on that button. Let's copy the selector function name over here and let's just create that really quick. So Objective-C private func did tab login. And over here, I'm just going to initialize this view controller. So let vc is equals to login view controller. And over here, basically, we're just going to do the same thing over here. So let's just copy that line or basically type it out if you want. So navigation controller, instead of pushing the register view controller, we are going to push the vc here, which is going to login view controller. Let's just build and make sure that everything is set up correctly. And I believe this is the fastest time that we have set up a UI for a view controller. So over here, let me just tap login, and as you can see here, log into your account using email, password, and we are going to log in using this. All right, so let's just go to the register view controller over here. I'm sorry, register view model here, and basically we just need to do the same thing over here regarding the login view controller. However, instead of recreating the same view model, which is going to be with a different name, instead of a register view model here, I'm just going to change that name actually. So it's going to be authentication view model. All right, let's just copy this name over here, update that name there as well. Click enter, and before we're represented by any errors, we're just going to go to the register view controller over here. We are just going to update that name because it's no longer there. As you can see here, cannot find register view model. So basically we are going to do this simple trick, and now we can use this view model to be shared across this login view controller and the register view controller as well. So let's just go here. So as you can see here, we have an email, password, is registration form valid? Maybe we can change that name as well to is authentication form is valid, right? And we can update that name over here, update the name over here. And I believe this is it. We have the authentication view model is capable of basically validate the registration form, so authentication form as well, so authentication form, and basically we just need to update that name inside the register view controller. So let's just wait for Xcode until it marks the places that we need to change that name. So basically validate registration form is going to be validate authentication form, and here for the view model as well, validate authentication form. And here is registration form valid. I believe that was changed to is authentication form valid. Same thing. We're not going to update anything right now in the registration view controller anymore. Let's just go to the login view controller. Since we're using basically the same UI across both the registration and the login view controller, and we are going to be using the same view model as well, we can actually copy this function over here from the registration view controller and just paste that over here. And as you can see here, we are just missing some functions. So the functions that are responsible for binding the views to the view model itself. We can literally copy everything from here. I know this is a lot of copying and pasting, but basically this is just two simple screens that doesn't require us to make a really over engineering part, we can just, it's just one functions that could exist in both view controllers. I don't care about that. It's just not going to, you know, become a bad practice or anything. It's just one function. So let me just copy everything here from the register view controller. So I just need to have those two methods as well. So I'm gonna copy this from the register view controller, starting from line 63 to 71. Go back to the login view controller. Here, I'm just going to paste those two functions. And as you can see here, I'm no longer getting two errors from those lines. Basically, I got new errors from this line, but this is easy because I'm just going to introduce the view model to the class itself. So right here, I'm just gonna make sure that I'm importing combine as well. Import combine. And here, I'm just going to create my view model. So private var view model, and that is going to be authentication view model. And here, I'm just going to create my subscription set as well. So subscriptions, which is going to be a set of any cancelables. Initialize that as an empty set for now. And as you can see here, most of the errors went away. Here's just the register button. I believe this is going to be the login button, and hit Command R. I believe this is it. Oh yeah, we forgot actually to call that function. So we can go to the register view controller over here. And as you can see here, bind views was called inside the view.load. We can actually do the same thing over here. So login view controller, view.load, make sure that we are binding our views over here. And let's just hit Command R to build and run this. We're gonna make sure that the same logic and the same validation that happens inside the register view controller is happening as well inside the login view controller. So let's just verify that. So as you can see here, the login button is disabled for now. I'm just going to make sure that whenever I'm typing like a correct email, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and yes, indeed that is working. All right, so right now we just need a way for us to actually log in back to our account. So this is going to be done from the networking stuff. So auth manager over here, and as you can see here, we have a function that we can actually use to register our user. I believe we're going to make a similar function. So basically I just write func login user. It's going to be with the same signature, so with email of type string and the password of type string. We're going to return any publisher with user as a result, or basically an error if there is any. And here I'm just going to return an auth.signin. And as you can see here, we can sign in using email and a password with the correct function that is going to return us a publisher. So let's just do this. So sign in with email and a password. So right here, I'm just going to map the result with the key path to the user itself. And over here, I'm just going to raise to any publisher. So it's not going to become specifically a future publisher. It's going to become any publisher over here. So let me just go back to the authentication view model. And as you can see here, we have a create user function. We just need to have a same function with a different name, but basically with a different purpose. So I'm just gonna copy this login user. And basically we have validated the email, the password using the same thing. However, we're just going to change that from register to login user with an email and a password, and everything is going to look the same. As you can hear, we are receiving this over the user over here. So basically whenever this user is set, it's just going to publish that to the subscribers, which we are going to assign for this over here. And I believe we have already done that when we copied everything. So as you can see here, the view model, I'm just going to inside my login view controller. So view model, user, and whenever we have a user over here, we want to do the same thing, referencing the onboarding view controller, VC dismiss, and we are just going to store our subscription inside our set over here. And one last thing before we hit run, as you can see here, we have inside my view.load and adding targets login button over here. I don't believe the login button is set to do anything right now, so let's just type login button dot add target self, and here selector did tab login. Okay, and here touch up inside, and I believe here we just need to add this function, which is did tab login. So let me just create that really quick. So Objective-C private func did tab login, and here from the view model I'm just going to say login user, and now our authentication process is 100% set up. So let me just hit build and run, and let's verify that. Alright, so let's just hit login from here, and I believe the email that I used to create a new account was amr@testing.com, and here I'm just going to write 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and whenever I tab login, as you can see here, I'm just logged in and I'm taken back to my home view controller. Let's just hit sign out, create account. No, I'm not going to create any new account, so login one more time, amr@testing.com 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and login from here. I'm going to be taken back to my home view controller. One more thing that I like to handle from my end over here, let's just go back to authentication view model, and right here I'm just going to initialize a new published property, and I'm gonna call that error, and that's going to be of a type string, and it's going to be optional because it's just going to be nil for now. And I'm going to go to the register function over here, and basically here we get our completion. We're just going to switch on that completion. So as you can see here, if I typed switch completion, I get basically two cases, either finished or failure. Okay, so in case of a finished, actually I don't need to do anything. It's just the failure here that comes from the create user. I'm just really interested in that, so I can do one simple check. So I can actually get the state of the completion from here. So I'm just going to set that basically to if case, and here I'm just going to check if the case is actually an error over here, or basically a failure. I'm just going to get that error. So error. Okay, I know that seems a little bit weird at first, but believe me, this is really cool feature from Swift. In case you don't need to basically switch on all the cases, you can just take one case over here. So I'm basically extracting the case that I'm looking for. If that case is going to match the failure with an error, I'm just going to get the error over here. So here as well, I'm just going to add my weak self so that I can reference the error object. So error, and I'm just going to assign that to error.localized description. All right, so in here in the login as well, so I'm just going to take that, all of that, so basically the if case and the weak self statement over here, and I'm just going to paste that down there. So basically, if we got the a login error, maybe with the wrong credentials or anything like this, this is going to be returned directly from Google's Firebase, and it's just going to be set to my published variable here. So right now, I just need a way for handling this error and showing the error on my view controller. So let me just start by the register view controller over here. Here inside bind views, I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to bind one more thing, which is basically going to be it's not here, I believe. Basically, yes, we just need to create a new one. It's not going to be inside this. This is a binding for itself. So from here, let me just type view model.error, and I'm actually interested in the publisher error. And here I can just type sync, and here I'm just going to get the error string. All right, so basically let's just make sure that this is no longer an option. So guard let error is equals to error string, else we are just going to return. And here let me assign a weak self, so we are not going to be prone of error, any memory leaks or anything like this. And basically we just need to store that subscription in our subscription set. And whenever we get an error over here, we just need to basically show the user that error. So let me just type private func present alert with error, and basically that is going to be a string. So basically let's just create this alert. So let alert, and that is going to be UI alert controller. And over here I'm just going to say title, that is going to be error. And for the message, I'm just going to pass the error that I got. And for the preferred style, this is going to be an alert. Here, I'm just going to create an OK button. So OK button, and that's going to be a UI alert action. That's going to be OK. And for the style, I'm just going to say default. Here inside the alert, I'm going to add this action, so OK button. And here, I'm just going to present this alert. So as you can see here, present alert, and set the animation to true. So right here inside my subscription model, so I'm just going to reference this function using the weak self that I have initialized over here. And here, I'm just going to say present alert with error. As you can see here, this is really good code. It's really simple, and basically the controller job here is to connect the view model to the UI, and basically this is actually awesome. So let me just hit build and run, and let's see if that is actually working. I hope so. I hope we don't get any errors so far. So let me just try to log out and try to create a user with the same credentials that we have specified before. So @testing.com, and for the password we can change that, you know the drill. However, whenever we try to create an account, let's just test that. So create account, and as you can see here, the error is being displayed directly from Google's Firebase. The email address is already in use by another account. We haven't created this text, we only specified this error and this OK over here. Maybe we can capitalize this O, and as you can see here, this is really done. So let's copy this two lines over here. So this present alert and this view model over here, and let's just do this to the login view controller. So I believe we can basically add that to here. So we have added the view model error, we are listening for this, and we are presenting the same error over here. And also let's just make sure that we have handled this inside the login user. So as you can see here, we are representing the error as well as a text, and we are passing this text back to our publisher over here. And since in the login view controller we are listening to the error itself, so we are going to handle this error as well. So let me just do this one more time. However, this time let's just try to log in using a invalid credentials, if we may say. So login, and here I'm just going to say @testing.com, and for the password I'm just going to write 8 through 1. So 8765431. We know indeed that this password is correct. However, it's a valid format, so this is why we got the login view, or basically the login button here is active. So let me just hit login, and as you can see here, the password is invalid, or the user does not have a password. So we are finished with the onboarding and the authentication, and all of that kind of stuff was handled inside this video. So that's it for this tutorial. If you enjoyed this tutorial so far, please hit that like button, consider subscribing to my channel. I would really appreciate this. And if you have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section down below. One more time, that was Amr. Happy coding and peace out.